victim or villain. The untold story of Father Mallari, the priest who became the first Filipino serial killer. It all began with a string of strange murders in Pampanga in 1810. One by one, the bodies surfaced in the town of colonial era Magalang. Spaniards and Filipinos alike were swept up in wave of curiosity along with brow-raising, worrying and hair-raising fear. No one knew why this was happening, such as the material of mysteries and thrillers of modern-day society. But this was unheard of for the residents of the area at that time. After all, nothing similar had ever been recorded, as the colonial police force scrambled to figure out who was behind this act that appeared to be the very picture of evil itself. More and more citizens fell victim to the mysterious killer who brought terror without the burden of a face or a name attached to the gruesome actions. In a span of about a decade, around 50 strange deaths occurred in scattered parts of the area, and the Guardia Civil were stopped, unable to find a clear motive or connection between the gruesome murders. With no clues or suspects found, there was no other choice but to determine the case as unsolved, at least for the meantime, even though the ghastly fear of an unknown killer roaming the streets of Magalang would loom over everyone's heads. But given that these murders would lead to the first documented Filipino serial killer, it would have been unusual for the unsuspecting townsfolk to pinpoint all of them to just one person, let alone a Filipino priest. Here is the calligraphy of Fr. Juan Severino Mallari. Juan Severino Mallari, a man of many firsts. Father Juan Severino Mallari was an accomplished man out of exemplary skill. Historian and psychiatrist Dr. Luciano Santiago wrote about the man's life in his book, Kapampangan, Pioneers in the Philippine Church. He documents how the Macabebe-based priest was the first Filipino to preside over the parish of Pampanga. Mallari had climbed and scraped his way through several bouts of rejections while applying to become a pastor. This was an impressive feat, considering that it happened during a time when it was not common for Filipino priests to hold such positions of power as the Spaniards reigned supreme. He was also one of the first Filipinos to master the art of calligraphy. The Pampanga Quarterly publication Singing Star how Mallari used his talent to decorate the parish annual reports with flowered vines and angels on clouds. One can only wonder how such a gentle artist's hands could commit the atrocities he supposedly did later in life. But of course, a serial killer might just consider his work as art. Wait for part 2.